All right, hello everybody. So in your kits that I'm providing for you, you'll get a chunk of clay, you'll get a plastic knife and fork, you'll get a few toothpicks and a popsicle stick. These will be your tools. So when you're done building, you can either keep these or throw them away or whatever you want to do with them. I don't need them back. So to get started, the clay that you get is going to be recycled clay, and it might be a little bit extra sticky. So you might want to just kind of, this is called wedging, where you just kind of roll it around and kind of get that extra moisture out of it. Your hands will pick up that extra moisture and help dry it out. The air will also help dry it out as well. So if it feels a little extra sticky, you'll want to do that first. That's called wedging. Okay, so to start your tree, you'll probably, if you want to add decorations to it, like stars or anything else with the clay, you'll want to tear off a chunk of clay and put it off to the side. If you feel like you want to make your decorations before you start on your tree, just to ensure that you're going to have enough clay to use, that would be a good idea. So to get started, what you're going to end up doing is making coils. So what I usually do is I tear off a chunk, and I start making kind of like a carrot shape with my hand first, and then you roll it. I'm showing you the traditional coiled tree that you see in the photo I sent out on Friday. So if you want to get fancy and add to it or do something different, go for it. You can also make something that's not a tree. You do not have to do a coiled tree, but this is what I'm going to show you how to do. So roll it out. So what I'm doing is I'm using the palm of my hand to kind of roll across and keep it as even as I possibly can. Some people like to use two hands. It depends on your comfort level and kind of what, everyone kind of has their own process. I would avoid rolling on your fingers because it's going to make really weird bumps. And you can decide how long you want your coil to be and your comfort level for that. Some people can make really long, beautiful coils. Some people can only do like short, stubby ones. It really doesn't matter. So then what you're going to do is you're going to start coiling it up. So you start from the bottom, work your way up. Now the amount of clay I gave you should be able to make probably about a 6-inch tree or taller. So you start with a base that I would say this is probably about 2 or 3 inches wide, and you just start spiraling it up. Kind of start with your basic base. And I stopped here, so I'll continue my coil where I left off. I'll kind of put this off to the side. So start off with kind of a carrot shape and start rolling it out with my hand. So I just kind of go back and forth with my coil. I like using one hand because if I use two, sometimes I get uneven with my rolling and then I start making weird twists in my clay. You'll want to do this on a surface you don't mind getting dirty, and maybe somewhere where clay won't stick to it. I'm working on a canvas right now. If you do this on paper, it might stick to the paper, so maybe avoid doing anything on paper. A wood surface would work well. Okay, so now I'm going to attach it to where I left off on my last coil, and now I'm going to start trying to spiral it in. So that means that I have to lean it towards the center to start making that kind of cone-like shape. And you can decide when you're going to do that, but I kind of do that after I start my base because it takes it a while to start working its way to the center. You can decide how tall you want your tree to be. If you want it taller, just continue spiraling it more in the middle rather than on the edges. So instead of leaning it in, you could continue to spiral it on the top if you want it taller. If you don't want it so tall, you can continue to spiral it on the inside. It also kind of depends on how much clay you have left. If you don't have a lot of clay left, you want to start spiraling it in more. So I'm going to roll out a new coil. can always add to the bottom too. If you want your tree taller, you can kind of start adding more spirals to the bottom, and I can show you how to do that. Okay, so here's the next set of coils. I'm gonna just start curling mine in because I don't want this video to be super long. Okay, so there's my little tree. It's about the size of an ice cream cone. If I want to add more to the bottom, I can take this and just add it to the bottom of the tree that I've already made if I want it a little bit taller. Now, when you're building, you want to make sure everything's kind of pressed together on itself so it sticks. Okay, and you're going to have to do one more step to make sure that it's going to stay all together, because if you were to fire the tree like this, what's going to happen is that stickiness is going to go away because the moisture will get pulled out of your clay, and then your coils will just fall apart. So what you're going to have to do is a method called stitching, where you very gently hold your tree upside down like an ice cream and get your popsicle stick, and you're going to use that to smooth the inside. And by smooth, I mean combine your coils together. It doesn't have to look nice and pretty on the inside because no one's going to see that part anyway. So what I'm doing is I'm just combining the coils together so they don't look like coils anymore. And the popsicle stick's going to work great for this. Now, if you can't get to the top of your tree, what you could do is, if you have extra clay, grab a little extra clay, throw it in the middle, kind of squish it down in there. Make sure you're holding the bottom so it doesn't totally mess up the top of your tree here. And then kind of squish the extra clay in there. It helps kind of seal that bottom if you can't reach it with your popsicle stick. Keep using it to totally combine those coils together. It doesn't have to look pretty, but it can look nice and smooth if you're a perfectionist and you want to do that. Okay, I just want to make sure all the coils on the inside are smooth together so they don't look like coils anymore. Okay, so then I'm going to kind of squish this on here. You can decide how you want to decorate it. So right now it just looks like a spirally cone. To make it look more like a tree, you can kind of squish it into whatever shape you want. You can kind of flop it over like a Dr. Seuss tree, and you can start making decorations. If you want to smooth the outside and add like a tree texture to this, you can. That's up to you. That's kind of why I provided the fork, in case you wanted to do that. So to make a star, I'm gonna try not to make a huge one. I'm gonna take some of my extra clay, roll it into a ball, flatten it with my hand. And you can make a stencil first if you are not too keen on making stars by hand. But I'm just gonna kind of draw a star with my toothpick. You can make like a little angel or Santa hat or something to put on the top. So once I'm happy with that, I'm gonna go ahead and use this to kind of cut it out. I could use my knife too. Okay, there's my star. It's not perfect, but it's okay. You might want a cup of water next to your workspace to help you dip your fingers in and smooth some of these areas out. Having some water by you is a good idea. Okay, and then I'm going to attach it to the top. Now to attach clay together, this is when you're really going to need your water. You're going to rough up the surface that you're attaching it to, rough up the object that you're attaching, add water to both surfaces. I don't have any with me right this minute, but you're going to want to add water to both surfaces and then squish it together. This is called score and slip. This clay is pretty wet that I have right now, so it might be okay without any water. I'm going to take my popsicle stick and use it to kind of smooth these together. I can add a little extra clay there to make it look a little bit better. Okay. So I just dabbed a little bit of extra clay on there to help smooth out that part. Now if you think that you might have a hole in the top where you added that extra clay, you can kind of be on the safe side and poke a hole in the top here. I can actually feel a little bit of a hole there where that extra clay that I pushed to the inside might have made a hole at the top. You don't want any air bubbles in your clay. It will run the risk of exploding in the kiln. Okay, so there's my star on top of my tree, and you can also add any sort of decorations. So you could add little like Christmas balls or bulbs. If you want to get really fancy and make holes and add lights to it later, you can. Just keep in mind clay shrinks about 1/8 of an inch. So if you make holes that you want to have Christmas lights sticking in, you want to make them a little bit bigger than what the actual light size is. So there's my decoration. I would have normally added water there, but I don't have water with me right this minute. So I'm going to rough up the surface I'm adding it to. Rough up the object I'm adding to it. Add water to both pieces and then attach it. Okay, and then I can keep going until I have as much decoration as I want. I could even add extra coils over the top if I want to make like a garland or something along those lines, kind of hanging on, and you can attach that as well. So that is the basics for creating your tree. If anybody has any questions about the building process or anything else working with clay, let me know. So the main things that you're going to need are your tools, a good work surface, a cup of water, and this video if you want to use the instructions. I will need these by Friday if you want them fired before Christmas, because they'll need probably at least the weekend to dry. They have to be completely air dry before I can put them in the kiln. All right, good luck everybody.